Hello, and welcome back to another set of yoga asanas that I find helpful when I am processing different emotions associated with loss and grief. We recently um, lost a very dear friend, teacher of mine here in Sedona, Dennis Ott. And Dennis was our pottery teacher, very wise man, very special person. And so there's lots of layers of grief, right? Even though different people in your life may come and go, it's every time you lose somebody, it kind of churns up deep-seated feelings of other past losses. And one of the things that I'm going to share today are some yoga poses that I've done when I feel like I need to release tension. In particular, when I'm doing things that cause me to hunch over. So when I do pottery, and especially throwing pottery on a wheel, you tend to sit and you're like this, right? You're hovered over something. Maybe for you, you're making bread. Maybe you're at a computer or on a phone. You're writing. You're doing something that brings you hunched forward. So these postures today are going to be focused on how we can create the opposite here. So kind of like that moving forward and back to find the balance. Again, life is a constant finding of balance and noticing where you are. So I've found myself this week with the loss of my friend being kind of hunched forward. So we're going to start by opening that up and at least coming to something a little bit more aligned. So you can either, I'm here in hero's pose. You can do this with a block or a blanket. I'm outside today, so I have minimal props with me. And find that spot, and maybe it's just even a comfortable seat. Take a minute to find a spot where you can sit and feel some alignment in your spine. So start by hunching yourself forward. For me, this is, kind of a natural position. I think a lot of us tend towards this. And just notice how your back is rounded. You can see my back rounded here. My shoulders are forward. And the first thing I do to begin to realign myself is to engage my core muscles here by pulling in the energy and then lifting up from my seat, up my spine, letting my shoulders drop down behind me, and taking a couple of breaths here. I like to bring my hands back behind me just a little bit. So instead of being forward now, we're got a little bit more of an opening. So in yoga, this is called a tamasic pose, and this is a rajasic posture. So rajasic is more forward, energizing, more fiery and active. Tamasic is more what's in Ayurveda called kapha oriented, where you're more sedentary and anchored. And moving between the two. So we're going to just gently let our hands come forward and back, just so you can start to tune in and notice the difference. Taking a breath here, nice and open, and then exhaling, and then flowing forward again. Inhaling, exhaling. We're going to just move forward and back a few times on the breath. Exhaling forward, inhaling back, exhaling. And we're going to do some seated cat-cow. So very similar to what we were just doing. But we're going to have our hands on our knees. And we'll just use our hands pressing into our knees to pull our heart forward. Maybe your gaze will lift up a little bit more here to get a little bit more of a heart opener. Maybe a little bit more of a back bend. And then as you exhale, taking your hands together, pressing away, opening up those shoulders. Maybe this time on the inhale, you'll bring your hands back behind you. You can clasp them, let them fall, looking up, opening up. Exhaling, bringing your hands back together. We're going to do this a few times. So I invite you to go slowly so that you can really engage and feel the sensation here. Feel how good it feels to let your shoulders come open and your chest open up and your heart open up. And just pressing out that tension, letting your head drop down. Another nice way to open up is to do some twists. So I'm going to do this from a comfortable seat and taking my left arm up, exhaling to bring my left hand to the outside of my right knee, and my right arm, I'm going to have it come across my back. And just inhaling and exhaling here. And again, focusing on my shoulders being back and my chest lifted. Inhaling again, really letting your seat be connected to the surface you're sitting on. And then we'll come back to center. Inhaling in, exhaling out. And we'll bring our right arm up, bring that right hand to the outside of your left knee, left hand behind your back, or even clasping your thigh, and opening up. And releasing that again. And then we'll come to tabletop here. Move anything you have in your way. And pressing back into downward dog. And then gently walking your feet forward to meet your hands. And bending your knees a lot, however much you need to, so that your belly rests. And letting yourself hang down. I like to have my hands come behind me here. If that doesn't work for you, you can have your hands on blocks. You can have your hands on your shins. You want to just let the tension kind of melt down away from your back and shoulders. Just letting your head nod out a little. And then bending your knees again and slowly coming up one vertebra at a time until you come to stand in Tadasana here. Now in Tadasana, this is a great way to practice alignment. So having your feet hip distance apart, your hips are over your ankles, your shoulders are over your hips. You might have a slight bend in your knee. And just inhaling and exhaling here and bringing your attention to your heart center. So that you've got a nice gentle opening. Take a nice inhale in with our arms up and around. Exhaling our hands to heart center. Inhaling again. Exhaling, hands to heart center. One more time. Feeling a little more centered here. We are going to come into some warrior poses. So we're going to start with some sun salutations to prepare ourselves. So taking a nice breath in, this time on the exhale, just folding forward, letting the tension just flop out. Just let it just fall out of you. Inhaling to halfway lift with your shoulders nice and strong, back parallel to the mat or the earth. Exhaling back down again. And this time bring your hands down to the surface and step back. You can step back into plank if you feel like you want to build some heat. But here I'm just focusing more on moving energy. So I'm going to stay here on my knees, letting my shoulders come over my wrists, bending my elbows back towards my hips here, and feeling nice and wide in the shoulders to create space, and letting myself come all the way down to the mat. And then pressing myself back up into downward dog. Lifting the right leg up. Exhaling the right foot forward. I'm going to bring my left foot back and come into warrior one here. So again, this is more of a Rajasic move. We're moving forward. Our heart is open. We've got our shoulder blades slightly back, right? You can bring them way back if you'd like. Actually, let's do that. Let's come forward here and then inhaling our arms back to open with your feet in warrior one. Exhaling. Inhaling. Exhaling. Really feeling the opening, slow motion inhale. And this time on the exhale, you're going to bring your weight to your forward leg and let your arms come out in front of you so that you can lift the back leg up and come into warrior three. You can do this with your arms forward, your arms at heart center, your arms in airplane arms, pulling your core muscles in, maybe a little bit of a bend in the standing leg, and then slowly bending that front leg to bring that back leg down. Inhaling back up, exhaling our hands back to the mat, stepping back again, either into plank or with your knees down. Slowly lowering yourself down again. Inhaling yourself back up to downward dog. Just feeling all of that flow of energy up and down the spine. This time we'll lift the left leg. Inhale that left foot forward, bringing the right foot to a slight angle to warrior two, warrior one legs. With the left leg forward. And inhaling here. Feeling the stability of your legs here on the mat. And then we'll inhale and straighten that front leg and open. Exhaling forward. Inhaling to open. Exhaling forward. One more inhale. And then again, exhaling, this time bringing the attention to the left foot so that you can lift the right and come into warrior three here. Pressing that foot back, again, keeping your hands at whatever place feels good to you. I like this version because it lets me have my shoulders back a little bit more and bending that front leg, bringing that foot down again. Inhaling up, exhaling, bringing that front foot forward, lifting up. Exhaling, nice swan dive forward, slow motion, folding over, releasing. Inhale to halfway lift. Exhale your hands down and step back into plank. Bring your knees down. Slowly lower yourself all the way down. And we're going to do some salabhasana. So let's start for a second with ourselves in Sphinx pose. Move my pillow out of the way. Sphinx again is another one. It's simple. It lets you kind of counteract the hunching motion of that protecting that we tend to do. Inhaling in. If you'd like, you can press your palms in and come into seal for an even deeper opening. Exhaling back down, bringing your forehead down and your hands back behind you. And then we're going to lift our head, neck, and shoulders. You can lift your hands. You can even lift up your ribs. And then eventually maybe lift your toes. So you feel your fingertips coming down towards your toes pressing back behind you. And you're breathing. Making sure you can breathe. So you're keeping your heart open, your shoulders back, but only coming up as high as you can without constraining your breath. And then go ahead and exhale, coming back down. We're going to do that again. You can either do what we just did, or you can take your hands behind you. I'm going to flip around here so you can see a little bit better maybe. So we'll take your hands down to your lower back. And the same as before, you're going to lift your head, neck, and shoulders, your ribs a little bit, and your toes, and let your fingers clasp together, come back down towards your toes. Same as before. Exhaling back down. And just pause for a moment with your hands as a little pillow for your forehead. You can do either of those that we just did, or we can come into bow pose. So if you'd like to try bow, take your left hand to your left foot or ankle, your right hand to your right foot or ankle. And similar to before, we'll lift our head, neck, chest, and now we'll kick our feet into our hands, and that will usually lift your knees and thighs up off the mat. Again, only coming to that place where you can breathe. Exhaling, releasing yourself back down, and then get a little counter stretch by bringing your knees in and your arms forward and resting for a moment in child's pose. You can even again make a pillow for your forehead. Just relaxing here. And then bring your hands underneath your shoulders. Gently bring yourself up. And then we're going to come into camel pose. So for camel, you'll be on your shins. If you'd like to put an extra blanket underneath your shins for comfort, go ahead and do that. And then bring yourself up. Bring your hands as if you're putting them in back pockets here. And again, you're going to lift and open. Maybe raise your gaze up a little, feeling the nice opening of the shoulders, the lengthening all the way up from, you're feeling that up your legs, anchoring down as you open and create space. So it's, you're lifting first and then arcing back. And then you use your core muscles to slowly come back up. You don't want to come up too suddenly because you'll end up straining your neck. If you want to do what we just did, you can do that option. We're going to also do another version here for those of you that want to try it by taking your hands to your heels. So again, you're breathing in, opening up, but with your hands on your heels, you may come back much deeper. And then when you're ready to release, you can bring your hands back to your hips, slowly using your core muscles to come back up. And then coming down onto your seat. And then we're going to come onto our backs and do some bridge pose. Sorry, I have a little bit of a rock underneath me here. Okay. And then slowly coming down, finding yourself nice and comfortable. Maybe your pet wants to join you. Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's okay. Okay. Gordy, come. All right, sit. Gordy, sit. Gordy, sit. Gordy, sit. Gordy, sit. All right, lay down. Lay down. Yeah, yes, you're a good boy. Yes, you're a good boy. Yes, you are. And you come down onto your back. Feeling your feet nice and anchored on the mat. Maybe you can feel the soles of your feet pressing down, very strong and secure, to lift your tailbone up. And then bringing your shoulders underneath you and clasping your hands if that feels okay. If this doesn't feel good, then you can just use your forearms and keep your fingers up to the ceiling like this, or up to the sky. And then when you're ready, just slowly roll down one vertebra at a time. Taking a breath here. Exhaling out completely. We're going to do 2 more of these. So inhaling in, and you can tuck your shoulders and clasp your hands if that feels good. And then go ahead and release and exhale. And then for the third version, you can do either of the 2 we just did, or I'm going to show you wheel as an option. So for wheel, you take your hands back by your shoulders with your fingers pointing towards your hips. And just like you did in bridge, you press up. You want to be very careful. If you haven't done wheel before, I suggest that you do bridge like we just did. Otherwise, if you have, you can go ahead and press yourself up into wheel. This is a nice back opener. And then I'm not going to hold it that long. I'm not on a very comfortable surface. But as I said, if you haven't done wheel before, I suggest you do that when you have somebody with you to help spot you. And now we're going to just rest here for a moment, walking your feet out to the edges of your mat, letting your knees come in, bringing your arms wide. And just taking a couple of breaths. And then you can go ahead and bring yourself into Savasana, bringing each of your legs long. And you can stay here as long as you like. And when you're ready to come up, bringing your legs long, bringing your arms out wide overhead. Maybe a nice lengthening on the right side, then a nice lengthening on the left side. And bring your feet hip distance apart. Roll yourself onto one side. And just find yourself a nice restful position. Feeling the grounding. Done a lot of opening. Just letting yourself kind of come into a sense of balance here. Stability. And press yourself up to a seat. And take a couple of breaths here. Maybe bringing your fingers down to the mat, just again to find that stability. Thank you for joining me today. I invite you to follow us and subscribe to Village Yoga Sedona on YouTube. You can also visit us at villageyogasedona.com for longer length videos and access to everything we've got. And I hope that these poses have helped you find some ways to create some opening and balance as you process the layers of loss that you may have in your own life. Thank you for joining me. Namaste.